Welcome to the Fit Dads podcast. I'm Brad Thompson. I'm joined by Ryan Dutton. And today, Ryan, we're going to talk about how to be a leader. So not only when you're a parent, it's a sort of basic principle that I think a lot of people neglect. And being a leader and how to be an effective leader is essential for essentially the home. You know, the home is a workforce, or the home is like a workforce. And when it comes to being a parent, parenting is hard, it's tiring. The thought of, thinking long term feels a bit impossible for some people. A lot of people are bogged down by day-to-day grind of school runs and bedtime routines, but we know more than anyone what that's like. So today we're going to talk all about leadership, our experiences of being a leader, being led as well. I suppose my first question to you, Ryan, is going to be, what's your experience of leadership, whether that's being led or you having to lead?
I think that leadership can be, first of all, I want to say leadership can be very misunderstood. I think we see leaders and we think of them as very stern, aggressive sometimes, power trippy people, which there absolutely has to be maybe elements of control, elements of persuasion, elements of steering the ship. But alongside that, there has to be a massive sense of empathy and community and winning people over and having people feel like they can trust you. That is such a important part alongside the other things which can, on the surface level, be seen as a little bit like controlling, maybe power trippy. My experience, I guess, with leadership probably come from sports, really. I think we all have those managers and coaches in our lives that have quite a profound impact on us. I think the ones that stand out for me are obviously my football coaches, right from kind of when I was, very, very young. In my kind of, I started playing football when I was about 4 years old, so a real proper little whippersnapper, and had some great coaches then. I think probably one of the best coaches for me was Coach Wiley, a guy who took our Rosendale sports team, and he was a phenomenal character, just very galvanising and very relatable. Wasn't no shit, no bravado, just told you as it was, very old school. And I think as you develop as a coach later in life, you adopt some of those same principles of leadership that were instilled in you as a kid. I had my coach when I was at university, who was also of that very same mindset. But he was a very, very much a character because he was not only a little bit old school because of the coaches he'd had. He was about 10 years older than us at the time. So for a coach who's 30 to taking like 20-year-old lads, that's still quite young, I think, to be a coach at 30. He might have been even a bit younger than that. He was still like a lad himself, like at 30 years old. You're still, probably going out quite a bit, liking the kind of, the boys at uni, getting on it, hearing all the kind of stories. So he was someone who was not only a leader on the pitch and someone who could stand on the sideline and really give us great instruction, but he also came out with us at a weekend and liked kind of being immersed in the football society and what that entailed. So that was quite cool. I guess what are your leadership kind of experiences?
So I was quite a young manager. When I was at the EIS, one of my first career progressions was stepping up to like part-time duty manager work, which, zooming out now, doesn't seem that, groundbreaking or important, but you were managing a shift, essentially. You were like cashing up, you were making sure work were getting done, essentially, just like leading the workforce you were on then. And one thing it really taught me was like relationships, especially being a young manager. I had to essentially manage people who were older than me with much more experience and probably paid more than me. In fact, definitely paid more than me at the time. So that sort of stuff, you almost have to check yourself a bit, and you do question. You sort of think, who am I to be leading these? But actually, when you get the confidence and when you get the experience under your belt and you accept that, no, my role now is I need to lead these people. And slowly you get more niche with that, progress to being like a fitness manager at Concord Sports Centre, which I absolutely loved. I loved it. I just thought the team there, they definitely knew more than me. Like I'd never worked in a pool, like a leisure centre with a pool before. So learning all about like the pool plant and that sort of stuff, just crazy. So they were taking instruction from me, but they were more experienced than me. So that was a huge learning curve. And then obviously Firehouse Fitness, I was general manager there and leading a team and moulding them. And I don't know, I'm probably going to talk a lot more about principles a little bit later on, like things that I found successful and people who I've really influential leaders in my part, it's always been a combination of leading by example and asking really good questions. So my dad was a huge like lead by example guy. You know, he didn't challenge you too much mentally, but he would show us what to do. He'd lead from the front and expect you to follow. A guy called Ben Wild, there we go. A guy called Ben Wild at EIS, he was fantastic. He was the most organised person I've ever met. Just incredible, and I've definitely adopted a fair bit of that in my time to try and be organised. There's one of my old gaffers at Babcock called Andy Lehman, who were just incredible, really humanised, very similar to that coach that you said. Not that much older than me, but very much, he was my friend, and he was my leader as well. He was my boss, and I thought a lot from him. And then I suppose at Firehouse, Shane Beard, he challenged me a lot. He asked me a lot of hard questions that I had to really reflect on, and as a leader you have to learn how to communicate and play politics a little bit, and that's the bit that I'm probably most grateful for.
I think hearing that you've had so much more experience in those leadership roles than I have. I've never really managed. I've only ever had to manage, I guess, myself to a certain degree. That's with jobs I've had previously, and in what I do now. My leadership skills really come from working with people in much smaller groups, mainly of like one to. I mean, I've coached boot camps, things like that. But even those were kind of smaller groups. I think my qualities come out when I do coach people and lead people on more of a singular basis. But again, it's just what you've been exposed to. It's what you kind of had around you and the roles you've gone for. I think you're definitely more of a natural leader, I think, than I am, for sure.
It probably didn't. I want to say that it's not really come natural, like playing football and doing martial arts. I was never really the best. So I thought, right, how do I elevate myself and be in demand? And it came probably from the leadership side of things. Cool. And I thought, all right, if I can organise and do stuff that other people don't want to do, maybe this will get me somewhere. And thankfully it has done. And I suppose how it helps with clients as well, and you'll relate to this massively, just being able to communicate with them and being aware of, I suppose, the mental space, and you're not coaching yourself, essentially, you're coaching a different person. And I've always said you don't want a team full of you. You want a very diverse team. I'm sure you're the same with your clients. You've got a big roster of very diverse people, and that's amazing. That's what you want to do. You want to be able to adapt to different personality styles, and again, just let your actions speak loud as well.
That phrase right there, being able to adapt to different personality styles, is such a key role of a leader, isn't it? A leader has to be able to take on anyone from any background and, like I said, galvanise them, have them invested in a mission, a journey, and you can't use the same tactics with every single person as a leader. A leader has to be able to change their styles and their ways of communicating and their levels of empathy and their levels of pushing and really trying to drive for the best success and the results based on who they've got in front of them.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that when I started coaching became very apparent. Okay, I can't take that. It's almost like good cop, bad cop, but that changes every session, every client you had. Some people really respond well to lots of praise. I remember one lady who it was very obvious that, like, when I told her she was doing great, she would do great, and I had to be very careful about how I essentially criticised and how I got across my points for improvement. And then the complete stark contrast of that is I had a guy who recently I was coaching and I was giving him loads of praise. I was saying, mate, you're doing amazing, absolutely phenomenal, I'm really happy. And he actually messaged me afterwards and said, I don't want it to be so positive for me. I need it to be harder. Because if you keep telling me I'm doing well, I'm going to let my foot off the gas a little bit. I need to highlight the improvements, double down on those, and tell me where the areas I can improve are. So that was essentially what I did, and I said, look, there's levels to this. What level do you want to go to? And it was actually quite a deep conversation of, like, I can get quite horrible with this if you really want me to go there. And he's like, let's do it, 100%. Yeah. And this guy's improvements come on leaps and bounds since we had that quite good, I think, and productive conversation about how he wants to be coached and what the most effective way for that is. And again, I think that's really key as well, like picking someone's brains as a leader and saying, like, actually asking them, how do you think I can get the best out of you? Don't be afraid ever to ask that question to someone as well.
Credit to you that person felt comfortable to approach you with that. Like, you look at some of the old school coaches that maybe we've had, we probably won't feel comfortable approaching them and saying, Gaffer, I like what you're doing, but I'd prefer it if you did it that way. You'd probably get told to jog on.
For sure.
So the fact that you can do that's amazing. And I've wrote down here like expectation management, which is such a big part. I remember one of my old gaffers said to me, when you go into a new workplace, there's never a better time to be a bastard. And I never bought into it, because I'm just like, well, actually, I need to understand what's going on. I can't come in and bring the hammer down, because then I've got nowhere to go. Like, once the hammer's down, then what? Like, I'd rather leave it, like, keep lifting it, just in case I have to drop it. But when I first come in, I want to learn. I want to learn what's working, what's not working, and just really assess it. And that's quite a patient approach to take, but one that I found quite successful, and one that you clearly, you assess people, you make your best judgment, but sometimes you've got to just ask them directly. Like, what do you expect from me? Is what I expect from you. What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you can't quite suss it out, that really is the best approach. And they sometimes appreciate that as well. Like, okay, he's really interested in me and how he's going to get the best out of me. And I think coaching is so much more than just sending someone a program, a nutritional plan, and hoping they follow it. The best coaches and the best leaders are able to really get into the psyche of their audience and be like, right, which approach and which tool do I need out of the toolbox to get the most out of that person?
There's a sliding scale. If no one's come across the word dichotomy before, it's basically just, it's a sliding scale. It's where there's one action, there's a complete opposite. That is the dichotomy. And what you've just explained there is like, there's a book from a guy called Jocko Willink called The Dichotomy of Leadership. And he talks about that, like, you can be too soft and you can be too hard on someone. If you meet in the middle and then sway towards which one you need at that time, that's probably the best way to go. And I do sound very liberal when I talk, but if you've got a job to do, you need to be flexible. You need to be able to know what problem needs fixing and then go and do it. Because quite frankly, if you're at a corporate job, you might have got certain limitations that you've got. There might be someone there who's waiting to retire. There might be someone there who's young and hungry and wants to come in and improve. So it's all about learning those politics as well, depending on where you find yourself situated from leadership. Because there's always, I always said as a leader, your job is to make your leader's job easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'll say that again. Yeah. But if you can make your manager's job or your leader's job easier, you're doing your job.
Agreed.
And as a parent, I want to do everything in my power to make maybe Amy's life easier, so she can actually think, like, look at the higher level thinking rather than be bogged down in the firefighting weeds, if you like.
Speaking of parenting, I think this is such a massive overlap, isn't it, from leadership to parenting, and something that I think is undervalued actually a lot, because kids are looking for leaders. They're looking for natural role models from the moment they can talk and walk. Basically, they're looking for someone they can learn from and have life skills from, mental, physical, relationships, all these things they have to learn from an early age. And you don't maybe see yourself as a leader, and you probably wouldn't call it that. We just call ourselves parents, but there's so many different parenting styles. And God, you go online now, and how many different kind of Instagram accounts do you find about parenting, where one person's preaching one thing, one person's preaching another. So there's so many different kind of thoughts and feelings around the best way to be a parent/leader. But I do think that the difference of clients that we coach, I've had to really learn on the job a lot more, and found it a lot more difficult parenting than I have done coaching for a lot of reasons. Obviously, I've never been comfortable, particularly around kids. It's something I've kind of had to develop as I've had a little kid myself. Coaching and training has always come a lot more natural, but I can also speak to my audience when I'm coaching. I can get feedback. I can have that very deep heart-to-heart conversation with most of them about what is the best approach and route to get them the results they require. With a kid, it's very different. You can't extract that same information. They're not going to tell you how they're feeling. You'd have no idea what they're picking up on. It can be weeks and months sometimes before you even see them responding to any cues, and things that you're trying to instill in them. So it's a completely different ballgame, parenting and being a good leader in a parenting role. What would you say is some key aspects that a parent should have to kind of instill some things into their child that they really want to get onto them?
Calmness is going to be one. I know it's really hard because if you've got, like, we're both 1 or 3, our houses were probably never really that calm because there was something going on. But as a parent, if you can come in and be measured and, like, assess a situation and not jump into a situation like diving with both feet, you want to just sort of, you know, assess the situation a little bit, stay calm where you can. That's probably the number one for me. And then communication, you know, like if your parent just sort of snatches something off you, a toy, and you're like, well, what's that for? Like, you've not communicated what it's for, you've not given them any repercussions. Like, if you have misconduct at work, you know what's going to happen. You're probably going to get sacked. As a parent, you need to let your kids know about repercussions and what might happen, and just give them a bit of prior warning, you know, just a bit of communication. And I suppose the last trait, and I said more of an ability than a trait, it's more remembering the mission, like remembering what you're doing as a parent. You're trying to create a functioning person in society and someone who's, you know, going to perform and love and do everything you want them to do.
I reiterate all those. I think the most important one is that calm and patient. Be calm and be patient.
Yeah.
You can't. It's hard to do those things nowadays when you're talking to adults. Making that switch towards kids, it's even more important that you show those same restraints when you do just want to flip your lid and we outburst. And sometimes it's a knee-jerk reaction, isn't it? An outburst.
Yeah. When
you're feeling tired, a bit hangry maybe, stressed out at work.
Yeah.
To not let the child see that is really important, because they pick up on so much of how you are and your traits, and they're watching how you deal with situations. Right, Dad's a bit stressed. What's he doing? Okay, he's throwing pans around the room and screaming and racing up and down the hallways. And they're going to think that's the normal behaviour, and that's what will be ingrained in them. If you're a leader wanting to create a leader, calm, patience, communication is massive as well. I spoke about how I think Amy, my missus, does this really well, where she doesn't just give Harlow things. She is very good at, on a daily basis, like having this continual conversation almost with herself, basically, because Harlow can say very few things back, but she's constantly explaining things, why we're doing things, why we're playing in the mud kitchen, why we're having lunch now, why is it important we get our nappy changed regularly. You know, all these things are just letting Harlow know, and her vocabulary has come on massively as a response to that. And me and Amy have had conversations about how difficult, you know, it can be to get kids to do the things you want to do. But I think just showing them and communicating with them is by far the best approach.
It's allowing them to self-reflect as well. To shout him out as well. My old firehouse gaffer Shane Beard, he used to say to me the purpose of a manager or a leader is to have no purpose, which I thought really interesting. If you've passed on all the information, if you've given them everything they need, they probably won't need you functionally. They might need you emotionally still, but you know, they still have a level of purpose, but it's not this like everything has to go through. There's no bottleneck. So like when we make decisions now, we don't go through our parents, you know, because we're functioning adults. You don't really need to. Other people might feel the need to do that. They might not commit to something because they almost need parents' approval to do that first. And you almost have to, same with your workforce, and I said it briefly in the intro, like your home is like a mini workforce, and that's not making it too corporate and too militant, but it's your own little team. You need to make it productive and at the same time just make it quite a good place to grow and learn and just to be safe, really.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. I'll reiterate that for sure.
Which I suppose from your experience, mate, where do you see a lot of people go wrong when it comes to leaders? Like if you can paint a picture of like the worst leader possible, what would that look like?
The my way or the highway approach, when it's very militant in its approach. Yeah. Some people might respond really well to that. Some people, I get clients on and they'll say, but just tell me what to eat, how to move. I'm willing to adapt my whole lifestyle to what gets me results. And again, it doesn't tend to last very long because you're making so many kind of significant changes in a short period of time. But generally, the my way, the highway approach is just something that people can't get on board with. Like it's a one size, and you conform to that one size. It's a militant approach for a reason. Like it works in the military because you're trying to mould someone into the perfect soldier, and there's a formula and a blueprint that works for that.
Yeah.
But leadership in everyday life is very different, especially leadership in the parental household. And how many times do you hear stories and know people maybe who've had a dad or a mum who is that kind of very much my way, the highway, and the kid rebels massively, goes the complete opposite way because it's been too strict for too long. They've had no say in their own thoughts and actions. It's been a schedule, a routine, and instilling that in someone too early is sometimes a really detrimental thing to do. So that would be my probably biggest flaw in character when it comes to being a good leader.
Second that, and yeah, just picking up on the military side of things as well. My best man at my wedding, Joff, he was a Royal Marine, and he said just that, like when you go to the Marines, they break you down to build you back up again. So they will make you just feel completely incompetent, they will batter you down, and then they build you back up again. And one of the main reasons is when they have people join, they come with certain characteristics that maybe aren't, like you said, they aren't fit for a soldier. You know, they aren't fit to be part of this elite fighting force. So they just batter you down, and just if you can get through it mentally, physically, and you build, you've got that for the rest of your life. Like Joff's always going to have been a Royal Marine. He's achieved that. He's done some amazing things, and he wouldn't have done that if he didn't persevere and stick with it and be willing to be broken down. But doing that with a kid, like there's nothing to break down yet. Like you're going to teach them. You're the one to make sure they don't have to go through a process like that where they're broken down, or if they are broken down, they've got pretty solid foundations. They know that they can build on them.
I think that's a great analogy, actually. Yeah, you're right. As you go through life, we develop these characteristics and egos, actually, I think, to a certain degree. I think the military is about breaking those stigmas down in you and having you, like I said, a clean slate almost, where I think the correct term to use is just humble you a little bit. Yeah. People go through life thinking they're invincible, thinking they're well-hard, you know what I mean? Yeah. You go to the military and you realise that, oh no, it's a different ball game here. Yeah, and definitely. I think people sometimes need that. Like how many kids have been just sorted out because they've had that very militant style approach. But you do that too early with someone and it can emotionally break them and they never recover. So, there's a reason why kids from broken households tend to be a little bit more messed up, for lack of a better term, because they've seen mum and dad fighting, they've been through, breakups and divorces, and I think kids will always look internally at like those things and ask why. Was it me? Did I do something wrong? But I do think that what parents put on display to their kids and how much they show them in terms of love, affection, but also the hard side of discipline as well. It's such a fine balance. It really is. I mean, I don't think anyone ever gets it absolutely spot on, but there's a real fine line between all three aspects of there.
Yeah. My old team of PTs that I used to work with, we sort of broke a lot of the norms of what's expected of a team of PTs. It's like most PTs, they'll stay in the industry for a year, and then they'll bow out or they'll move on. They normally stick in a workplace for a year and then move on. We had 2.5 years where we continued building, and I think a lot of the reason for that was they saw progression, they felt valued, they felt seen. And I had a bit of a principle, again, picked up by my old management team, which was if it's their idea, they're more likely to do it. All right, it might not be as good as yours, but if it's their idea, they are so much more likely to do it. And they're more likely to do it well because they feel like they've been heard. All you can do is just be there to sort of point out shortfalls. So, for example, a couple of my guys ran like boot camps and stuff. They might have done like an 8 or a 12-week camp. I used to challenge them. I'm like, why are you going to get people in? What's the aftercare look like? And it were nice to get them to answer it and me go, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, try it. And just to sort of put them ideas in their head. It was all their idea, but it was sort of prized out by me. So I never said, what you need to do is this. It was always like, let's just pry this out of you a little bit. And I'm proud of them all who sort of worked for me under that period because it were a really successful period for us all. I learned a lot. I learned loads. just working with those and working with different personalities, and you could talk to one person one way, and then someone else might be a little bit more introverted, and you had to put your arm around them a little bit. Other people, like you said, needed to be pushed hard, and yeah, as you can probably tell, it's a big passion of mine. I like the building of a team. I like making sure it's diverse. So there's different characters for everyone. I never wanted a copy and paste workforce. I never wanted that.
I've studied, read a lot of books by brilliant leaders, and one that always stood out to me was Richard Branson. And he said, this is a guy who's, dyslexic, on paper, shouldn't have achieved what he's achieved. But he says that one of his biggest traits was he was really good at delegating. So, he says he's not even a natural leader. Like, he doesn't feel like he's, the out-and-out business person, the CEO. I mean, he doesn't even strike me as that. I mean, he's talked to me. He's very placid and calm, and, doesn't strike you as the hard-nosed businessman that you've seen on Instagram nowadays, where it's like work 1 million hours a day and, don't rest and don't sleep and, probably a bit more of a militant style approach. Richard Branson is not that in any way, shape or form. But he says that one thing I was really able to do was galvanise a team, instill a passion, instill a mission, and delegate really, really well. He says that that's his kind of key traits, and I thought that was a great thing to take on, to be able to delegate and actually give out advice and give out jobs where the best skills in that team can perform the best jobs.
I'm glad you said delegate, because if you're trying to delegate jobs as a parent, it can feel like a chore. Whereas if it's something that's gamified, or there's some sort of reward at the end, or there's some sort of byproduct, I love it. And I always say to people, like, prepare them to be better than you. Like, I really hope Ted is better than me at whatever he chooses to do. And I've never felt that about anybody in my life. I always just think, man.
I always think as well, it's about like letting them know that we're all in this together. We all do chores. Like, you're doing chores, I'm doing chores. I'm not just saying you go and do that while I go sit upstairs and watch TV. Like, we'll do things together. I think sometimes as a parent, the way you can get kids into chores could be to be like, right, this is your chore, but we're going to do it together. So I'll show you how to do it, and we'll keep doing it together, and eventually you're going to take this role by yourself. Yeah. Bit like what you would do if you came into a managerial role. You wouldn't just go, right, see you later. There's like an overlap period sometimes, a handover period, where someone else takes a CEO's role or a managerial role, and they have like 6 months where you work alongside that person. That happened. I had a client who sold his business, and when he sold his business to a big company, they said, yeah, the part of the deal is when we take over, you have to stay on for 6 months to basically teach our new CEO, the guy we're going to put in your position, as to how to do the job, what's required, just all the intricate details of the business that you've spent your whole life building. And I thought that was a fantastic way of doing it in business, and something that we could adopt in the parental household, where it's like, right, this is a job, we'll do it together for a while, and then essentially at some point you're going to go and do this by yourself, rather than going, that's the kind of dishes, get them done, and they're like, how do I do it, Dad? Oh, just get that, see that thing there, just grab that very liquid, wash it, it's not rocket science, you know what I mean? That not rocket science phrase is something you want to avoid, because that's an outburst. It's something that isn't going to be helpful. No. And something that's simple as washing the dishes, a kid might find really hard and complex. And I always remember when I was a kid, my dad teaching me how to wash the car. And the level of detail and intricacy he went into in washing a car, and I was like, it's just washing a car, Dad. And he goes, no, but there's so much to it. If you want it to spark, if you want it to look good, there's so many areas that you could miss. The difference between a good car wash and a bad car wash is night and day. And him just taking me through. And when I was a kid, I might have mentioned this before, but there was one phrase that always stuck with me that I just still to this day use in everyday life. And whenever I'm doing anything, it's, if you're going to do a job, do it well. And it doesn't matter whether you're washing the car, doing the dishes, or you're running, tax accounts for millionaires like my dad did when he was, in his career. You do it to the best of your ability. And that's something, again, a good leader should be able to do. They should be able to kind of show you how to do it, instill a really good work ethic, let you know about the intricate details of the job that's required. But also, have you feel like it's something you can do, and actually it's something you are capable of doing. Some
of the worst leaders that I've had are the ones who make you feel silly, if that makes sense. Like, between me and you, I'm not the best with DIY. All right, I've never been, and that probably comes from a little bit of, my dad was a brickie. I never really had to get involved. I did all donkey work, and they didn't really pick up the technical intricacies. But times where I maybe had to do DIY and that sort of stuff, I was always made to feel a little bit silly if I didn't know how to do something.
Right.
It's like, what do you mean you don't know how to do that? Or that's common sense. I'm like, me being a smart ass, but like, well, it's not common sense if I don't know it. Yeah. And I always remember but they were never willing to teach. And I'm like, I'm literally telling you, it will make your life easier if you just take 10 minutes now to teach me. And it was the ego, I think, the ego of not really wanting to pass it on, of everything has to go through me, and it were a bottleneck. And as a result, it's probably caused me quite a lot of a bad relationship with that stuff. Because if I do something, I'm like, I have no idea how to do that. Yeah. I'll be the first one to put my hand up and give some smart ass answer.
But it knocks your confidence when you get told that, like, oh, you don't know how to do that. You're like, oh, I should know how to do this. And there's that immediate question of being like, right. And kids will question that a lot. Kids are always comparing themselves to other kids, like in class. Yeah. From the moment the kind of class starts getting divided, when you have like your sets in maths, right? If you know your top set, you've got that confidence, like, okay, I'm good at maths. If you know your bottom set, there's immediately that thing of like, I'm not very good at maths, like it's just not what I do, and that's going to overlap into everything that you do. When your dad says, right, count that change, you're like, you panic on the spot. I'm not good at maths. This is pre-built thing that I'm in bottom set. And I think if you start questioning what your child does and doesn't know, rather than just saying, okay, you don't know that, let's go over it, do you know what I mean? And then just covering all boundaries. Look, if you're teaching the kid something and he's not quite getting it, maybe there's a different approach you can take there in terms of breaking that down and making it a little bit easier and making it stick a bit more. But never make the kid feel like they shouldn't know something.
They might not want to know it.
Yeah.
And that makes such like the people at the end of the day. Just like true. If you're managing a team, they might just not want to know it. So if you can link it to, well, this is why it's going to be important, you're going to lack this if you don't know it. Fair. And you've said it a couple of times in like giving away responsibility, or I've put here like relinquishing control, just giving up control. Delegating. There's a phrase that I've come across which is like leadership capital, which is like, if I'm always telling Ted off like all day, when it comes to him doing something by his own accord, I've probably not got much leadership capital left. If I ask him to do something nicely, he'll be like, no. Like, you've rollicked me all day. Like, why would I do what you want to say? You've used up all your leadership capital. Whereas if you like empower him and let it build a little bit, I used to have a rule in our space where if I was ever asked to do something, I'd do it, but I'd ask questions, I'd be enthusiastic. If ever I wanted something, I probably got it, because I were never like, oh, well, to do this, I need this. To do this, I need this. I'm like, no, I'm going to trust your judgment. You're giving me these resources to do this job. I'm going to do it to the best I can. I'll tell you if I'm struggling.
I love that phrase, leadership capital. Like, you can only have a go at someone and get on someone's case for so many times before they actually start. You start having the opposite effect of being a leader, where they actually start then resenting you and not looking up to you and being like, oh, I don't trust anything this guy says. And it goes completely the way. And it's a fine line. But I think coming back to kids, we've mentioned obviously patience and calmness, but you need like a level above probably what you've even ever experienced if you're going to continue to be that real solid leader in their life and someone they look up to and respect. Probably more so as they become teenagers as well, when they start feeling like, okay, I know best now. And that comes across probably way before teenage years. You might even have Ted asking now, why do we do this? Why is this? Part of it isn't, they want to learn. They're intrigued. There's an interest there. But part of it is like, they question you. No, why do we have to? Why do I have to make my bed in the morning? Why is that a thing? Because they're wanting a way out, basically.
Ted wants control. He's at that toddler stage where everything has to be on his terms. So me and him, we've got this phrase where we say, pick your battles. Just pick your battles. Make sure you don't cause something to escalate. It doesn't really need to be escalated. Like, do you know what I mean? If he wants, like, right, Ted, can you make your bed, please? And he'll go, well, I want to play cards first. And a creative parent will probably say, okay, why don't we play cards and make his bed at the same time? You can make a game out of it. You can be like, right, it's going up this mountain. Like, I'm going to off the covers and that sort of stuff. The bed is being made. It's assembled. Ted's got to play with his cards and the bed is assembling. Like, he's been learned how to do that. But you just meet in the middle. It sounds like a compromise, but It's what life is with people you care about, isn't it?
Yeah, and I agree. I think there's a way of making it fun. There's a way of making it something they want to do and they show interest in. And, if you can actually just make it that little bit more exciting as a chore, they're more likely then to go, okay, we make the bed, but it's that cool thing I can do. I can wave the cars over it while we do it. Great. But again, that level of patience there is really hard, because when you're in a rush in the morning and you're trying to get him to school and the auntie's breakfast, he's woke up late, you maybe overslept or whatever, and you need him out the door with that bed made, that's when that level of calmness and patience really gets tested.
Which I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying.
And don't get me wrong, there'll be moments when you fail massively, and for whatever reason, you just lose your temper. You're like, right, F it, I'm making the bed. You get downstairs and you give in, and it feels like you're being weak. But that's again, it's a learning experience. There's no such thing as a perfect leader. There's just leadership qualities that we all try to adopt and pass on to the people that we think need it.
It's very easy to be a leader on paper, but when you start getting back chat, you have to think fast. It's tough.
Oh, the back chat.
Yeah, it's coming, mate. It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Well, Harlow's just found this thing now where she's found no, basically. She knows what no is. And there's this thing where when we're like outside on busy roads, I have to hold her hand, basically. But she doesn't like me holding her hand. She feels like I can see already. She's seen it as a sense of control. Like when I hold Dad's hand, I have to follow him around. I don't want that. I want to go be able to do what I want to do.
Do what I want to do. Yeah.
And I've seen that happen a lot more recently, where I've been on I picked up from nursery yesterday, put in the car, and while I was kind of sorting a few things out, she was kind of like running around. I could hear a car coming into the car park, and I grabbed her and I pulled her hand, and she was squealing and wailing. I'm like, I'm doing it for your protection. Like, I genuinely don't want to see you get splattered across the floor. That wouldn't be a great thing on a Tuesday morning.
Or any morning, mate.
Or any morning, yeah. So, it's hard in that moment. It's like, right, we've got to do it this way for X, Y, and Z. And it's even harder when she doesn't really understand why. I can't say to her, it's because it's for your own safety. It's so that you are still living and breathing, because I'm very much like that. She doesn't get it. She just sees you as like grabbing her hand and not letting her do what she wants to do. She has no... It's a difficult age where she has no concept of consequences or why things are dangerous. She makes her own mind upon danger based on the mistakes that she makes. So if she falls over, like she's fallen over the back step to the garden a million times, but every time she goes to that step now, she goes down really cautiously and carefully because she's fallen over so many times. You only get squished by a car once. I mean, you can't make a mistake there. And there's some things as a parent you have to realise, okay, maybe there's a bit of a forceful action here, and maybe not letting them have their own way.
And again, she don't get it yet, but she will. She'll grow. She'll learn. And I always say that, like, being a parent, you're a teacher essentially. You're a non-verbal teacher and you're a verbal teacher, because they'll learn by what you do. They'll learn by what you say. But it's a combination of both that's probably going to, that's going to mean you're successful as a...
Agreed, yeah. But I think that the leadership thing's a great topic, especially on something like the Fit Dads podcast, where, you are a leader, and we don't brand it as that. We brand it as parent. But from the moment they're born, you are their leader, and your job is to steer them, guide them, influence them in the best positive way you can. And that's exactly what every successful leader does. So,
definitely, I would love to hear other people's experiences with like difficult situations at home. Maybe difficult things that they've had to navigate. Like, I can't even begin to imagine what teenagers are like, and when the worries shift. Like when we were going out downtown and stuff, like our parents must have been laying awake at night thinking, like, what do we do now? Like,
my mum definitely did. She told me the stories where on the first few times she knew I was like in Manchester, especially, which is a much bigger city. Like, she would just be awake all night, and with moments where mum would say, it got so bad one time, mum was like, I'll just come pick you up. Whatever time in the morning it is, I'll come pick you up.
Just let me know.
But it'd be like 3, 4 in the morning, mum. Fine, I'll be there. I'm like, I didn't really realise that she was up at that point. It wasn't until later she told me, like, it's because I was worrying. I was up at that point. So
and again, I think you can trust in the person that you're developing and growing. I think it's other people you worry about. It's wrong place, wrong time.
Absolutely.
Is it other people who are going to start acting up? Because you can have as much trust as you want in your kid, your team, whatever it is, but external circumstances are going to happen.
And I think obviously we've got boys and girls, so it's different challenges at that age as well, isn't it? You realise that there's the girls can't always protect themselves in the way that guys can, but guys are going to get challenged by other guys in a way that girls aren't as well. So depending on what you have, you may have both, boy and a girl, there's going to be a completely different set of challenges for each. And again, coming back to leadership, I think the way you coach boys and girls and the way you respect their kind of, the way you demand respect from them is going to be completely different. So it's so hard to know from, because I've not got any boys, I've only got a girl, you've not got any girls, you've only got a boy. So we're probably on slightly different wavelengths at the moment when it comes to our styles. But what I do hear is girls are generally a little bit easier to instill things in than boys are.
Lads seem to find the most creative way in the world to hurt himself, whilst having fun doing it. Yeah, we find it like with Ted at the minute, but he's learning. That's his way of learning. Physical play, moving his body, seeing what he can get away with. That's how he's learning.
Pushing the boundaries a little bit. Yeah. I think boys are very much more like all guns blazing straight into something. If we hurt ourselves, that's how I learn. Girls are probably a little bit more cautious and they'll assess things and see what's going on. But girls are a lot more emotionally kind of unstable at certain points in their life as well, especially like teenage years. Amy always recounts stories of girls from school being particularly mean in ways that boys just weren't. Like, it's psychological trauma with girls, whereas boys they'll just have a scrap basically. Whoever wins. Fair play, shake hands at the end most of the time. It's a lot more simple, I think, whereas psychological damage can stay with you for years. It really can.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know, like you said, it's a lot more complex than that. And I would love to hear from people. Just tell us any challenging situations, if you're willing to share, that you've dealt with and navigated. And
or like massive wins you've had when it comes to like leadership roles, parental roles, things where it was a very tricky situation to navigate and you came out the other end in a great spot. I'd love to hear those stories.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Any closing comments from you, mate, about leadership?
No, that's it. Just, patience, calmness, resilience, and all for the greater good of the mission.
And hopefully, our mission is essentially just to help parents, to develop themselves, have better traits, have better skills, and maybe, really help your kids to develop them into these amazing adults.
Absolutely.
All right.
Guys, thank you for joining us on the Fit Dads podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.